Hey everybody, I'm Greg Soul, and this is Why Am I, a podcast where I talk to interesting people and try and trace a path to where they find themselves today. My guest this go-around is Meg Gustafson. She's a curator of aesthetic magic and a creator of Hammy Whammy, this really cool space where she pulls all this interesting 80s stuff together. We talk nostalgia, Memphis design, mid-century burnout, and the deeply emotional connection we form with our spaces. From mall guides to neon preservation, this is a candid look at how architecture, fashion, and music shape us. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Meg. Meg, thank you for joining me on the Why Am I podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So
nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you too. So I know this is super weird and I love doing it this way because I'm a weird person. So it just kind of totally tracks is that I try not to talk to people too much ahead of time and then jump right in. And honestly, I love that I blindsided you today. So we were just going to have initial conversation. I said, let's do the thing. And I love that you're here and you're rolling with it. But I'm going to ask you the one question that I truly enjoy asking almost anybody I meet, which is, who are you, Meg? There's a lot of facets to you. A lot of people think of you in different lights, but only you know who you are. So who are you?
Wow, you're coming in hot.
You got to.
I should have known this from the name of your podcast. Somehow I'm completely unprepared.
All right, I'm writing down unprepared person. All right, first. No. So, who do you reckon you are? I mean, obviously, I found you for one very specific reason, but there's more to you than that. I'm just curious.
How did you even find me?
How did I find you? All right, so I've been falling down a nostalgia rabbit hole lately. So I'm an 80s baby. I was born in 81.
Okay.
And I've never been a nostalgic person, but all of a sudden here lately, 80s aesthetics has really been kind of creeping into me. You know, I've always sort of enjoyed, and I don't know. There's almost too much in my brain to talk about this stuff, but I will digress. I will get to the meat here. So I was diving down a rabbit hole. I ended up finding this fella, who did I think Stuart Hicks. He did a piece on the Thompson Center, and then somehow or another, leaned into talking about people trying to save the Thompson Center, which is how I found you. And then I found your Instagram account, the 80s Deco, which is totally cool, and Hammy Whammy. Like I said, I've fallen down this whole Meg rabbit hole as well. But yeah, all that absolutely interests me. But it also, I mean, that's going to be one facet of who you are. This, I don't know, what would you call yourself, an 80s enthusiast?
Absolutely. Yes. I would never say expert, and especially because the 80s have so many different things. And I grew up in a house, I was born in 79, grew up in a house that did French country in the 80s. So obviously we did not have any Memphis Milano furniture or sophisticated, but I grew up liking antiques and shopping at antique malls in our spare time. So my mom loves furniture and I love furniture. She doesn't love the 80s stuff that I love, but I can always kind of convince her if it's situated right, or she appreciates the aesthetics, but it's definitely a very typical Chicago suburban tract housing decorator with, P. Buckley Moss paintings and baby's breath in baskets and border wallpaper with little ducks on it,
Okay, well, if this wasn't and it's funny because I didn't know anybody that had any 80s design in their house either. I've never met a person that actually grew up with it. So it's fascinating to me. It's what has drawn you? Because I've seen your apartment. There was a piece on apartment therapy on your house and all this, all of these things. I've seen all of these things, and you live in essentially what every person, I guess, envisions the 80s looking like. So you obviously came back to this. What really pulled you back, you think?
I think it started with fashion and music, obviously. Mm-hmm. Easily music. best decade in music, I think.
Hands down, unarguably.
Obviously.
You're not going to give anybody any breathing room there.
And even if you don't love, electronic music, the that people were doing new things. I feel like you really got, I mean, you had Pet Shop Boys and all this stuff that had never happened before, the beginning of being out and gay. And that is just had never really happened before in modern culture. So that alone, and then those sounds were just so new. I mean, obviously starting in the 70s with Kraftwerk and all the beginning synthesizer stuff, but yeah, the pop culture 80s, I think, cannot be beat. And I sort of bristle a little bit at that being like the mainstream stuff. I'm not a huge Madonna fan. Like, don't kill me. And
don't come for you. I get you.
That's going to be the one pull quote from this entire piss off the entire gay community.
Oh, I've already written down the timestamp. Yeah. You're going to get roasted.
I am. Just to explain myself, it started when she did Ray of Light, and she said she invented electronic music because no one had done anything until she sang over it. This is just the, Madonna invented voguing, all this stuff that is absolutely not true. But I am thankful for her and some of her weird deep cuts that actually have very little vocals. I am a huge fan of amazing producers and all this stuff. Anyway, we can cut this whole part. I know that's not how podcasts work.
No, absolutely. Everything in the show stays in the show. So something you said there is like, it goes back to a discussion I just had of invented versus popularized something. So I was talking about how, like, I read that the hi-fi was invented in the 70s, and my kid was arguing like it wasn't invented. Somebody had done it before. I was like, all right, popularized maybe. Is that okay? So is it does it feel fair to say maybe she popularized voguing?
Absolutely. No, and she did so much for bringing like Black urban gay culture, like voguing, to the mainstream. But then she took credit for it, and you're like, okay.
For sure. I think some people use invented as popularized. I think it's kind of become synonymous with that right there. So I'm okay with it.
Well, and we're doing that right now with, I think, Memphis design jumped the shark a while ago with corporate art, right? Have you seen all the, like, even AI generated, like, just bold colors, squiggles, zigzags in, like, Walgreens artwork for their, like, website or their mailer? Who the hell knows what Walgreens is doing, but just corporate artwork. I've sort of, the pendulum has to swing, and I think I've gotten more into folk art since I've been doing hammy whammy and 80s deco and stuff, and I dare say I'm starting to like a little bit of French country.
Oh, come back to your roots.
Like, maybe
your mom was on to something.
Table does need a pleated fabric tablecloth.
Well, tell me, you brought it up. Tell me a little about Hammy Whammy and, like, how that started.
Yeah, my old space in my house in Bridgeport, I had a good friend, Amber Mortensen, and she helped me rent this place by the hour for photo shoots. And she does that out of LA and Portland. And so she helped me get the place, like, photo ready, and we took design risks for photo shoots and music videos, like, with that in mind. And so when I got married and moved in with Jonathan a few years ago, he has a lot of stuff, I have a lot of stuff. I had a storage space, and then I decided, why don't I rent a space with all my weird stuff that's a little too weird for the house, and rent it by the hour on Peerspace again. So that's what we're doing with Hammy Whammy.
Yeah. So Hammy Whammy is essentially like everything you would imagine the 80s would be in one space. And
kind of.
So but what do people usually do inside of this place? It's just amazingly decorated. Is it like music videos, photo shoots?
Yep.
Everything in between?
And parties. People rent it. I
parties.
had a sweet 16 birthday party the other day there.
Oh, that's
Or
dope.
yeah, and I'm not there. I just give people the code, and sometimes they tag me on Instagram. So I don't really know what's going on in there, but it's yeah.
Did I see you do like karaoke nights in there sometimes?
Oh yeah, that's just for fun. And all like I think the Sweet 16 party used the karaoke. I had it all set up for them. I don't know how it went, but they said it went well, and yeah. I'm not
That's
a
pretty
huge
dope.
karaoke person, but I really enjoy people doing karaoke.
Oh, you just talked about how big a part of your life music is, and you're not going
It
to get up
is.
there. You're not grabbing the
Yeah.
mic.
Well, but so yeah, I think it's such a big part of my life that I can't deal with one more bad rendition of like Guns N' Roses. Like I can't do it. I have to I have to leave.
All
But if
right.
you pick a deep cut, which all my friends do, and then it's really fun, I think. Or just complete strangers picking weird tracks. Like I was at a bar the other day and these 20 somethings sang Call Tyrone, and I was like, oh my god, you guys, the kids are all right, this is gonna be great.
We're
So
gonna be
yeah,
fine,
I
guys.
never
We're
heard
gonna be all
that
right.
karaoke before.
Talking about 80s music, like there's another weird thing. I kind of almost am disgusted. Like I just do the weirdest stuff sometimes. I was trying to put together like a top 10 list of 80s montages in movies.
Oh
And
wow,
as
that's
I
tough.
started doing that and I started digging around, I was like, I don't know why montages became such a big thing in the 80s, but the music for the montages is like fire. Like I got so surprised. So like I think the movie with the best 80s montages, there was like three, was Real Genius with
Oh
do you
wow, what
do you
song
remember?
was it?
Oh my gosh.
I don't
One
remember those.
was at the very end, it was like Everybody Wants to Rule the World.
Oh
Or
yeah.
yeah, there was that. And then there was some that I had never heard of before. I could pull up on my Spotify list. But they were, I don't know, like I think one's called like Number One. I can't remember the band. I don't know. It was just so interesting how well, like I think you could continue the 80s montages, but you still have to have that same music. Like I could see that in modern day television, like this weird storytelling piece that everybody decided cool, just they all colluded together and say, hey, we're going to do montages with sweet 80s synths and stuff.
Are montages over? I think epic montages are kind of yeah, it's
I'm trying
passe
to
now.
think, like,
Or
when was the
I
last
don't.
time you saw like a sweet montage? Like, hey, we're going to work. We're
Yeah.
we're we're learning this thing. We're training for this thing. Like, you don't see it anymore.
No, you don't. Or if you do, it's definitely tongue in cheek and they're referencing the 80s, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, no, I haven't seen a good montage in a while.
All right. Well, I'm gonna have to ask you to like later put
Yeah.
together your top montage scenes.
Okay.
Some pretty sweet ones out there. All right, that's that's crazy. So, definitely huge into design. You said fashion as well. So I'm seeing these sweet earrings you're
Oh, thank
wearing.
you, thank you.
They feel kind of Memphis-y, sort of inspired. Tell me a little bit about fashion and how that plays a part in your life
Yeah, I
now.
mean, I have actual fashion people in my life that know that is really their true art form and way to express themselves, and that know all the history. And I just am attracted to the general aesthetic of the 80s. I do not know labels and names and history. But I think it was an easy gateway for me, as a 20 something, to like a high-waisted pleated pant, or but all thrift store stuff that was not labels. And the older I get, the more I really do appreciate 80s fashion that I didn't know the names of anyone. And I'm learning. It is still such a time for experimentation that I don't think in recent history has really happened again. Um, it was so high arch, all the club kids and the, extreme Adam ant, or, pick a thing, just
Yeah,
bizarre,
yeah, for sure.
being over the top.
And all the bright neon colors. So I rock kind of an 80s aesthetic every now and then. So I've got like a jazz solo hat that I love wearing. It's like one
Nice.
of my favorite items, and then everything starts coordinating after that. And I've got some 80s inspired stuff. And I don't know, it kind of gives me this feeling of like I am just a kid sitting in Bayside High's favorite restaurant or something, like Saved by the Bell. Like, I don't know why, but it
Yeah.
makes me feel like, what is the feeling it gives you to like dress like in your 80s aesthetic?
Yeah, I mean the sort of cycle of fashion just I think the 80s have already been back 3 times in my, since I've been 20. Um yeah, it can get a little passe. I was watching one of those like Project Runway or something,
Mm,
and they had Cyndi Lauper on, and everyone was supposed to make her an outfit or make something she would like. And a lot of people really failed. I feel like they just did cliche, the fingerless lace gloves. And I don't know, I was a little disappointed. I think the 80s goes much deeper than that.
yeah.
And Cindy didn't like it either. She was like, no, invent something new. Like, this is supposed to be building on the 80s, not a costume. So
I
yeah,
think
I
it's
think
funny.
it's so well known that
Yeah.
it annoys me sometimes that,
But how it can come back like in spades. So there's I'm
absolutely.
not sure if you're like a drag race fan. Like I'm a big drag race fan. And in last season and on the new like God, what is it right now? It's like the Global All Stars or whatever the newest one is that's rocking right now. They have Lydia Collins who is there, and there is I mean they're probably like 21, and their aesthetic
Yeah.
is so 80s. Like everything they put together, it's like leopard print and you
On
know
purpose? They know it's
yeah
80s, or are they just doing it because,
they know it's 80s. They
yeah,
like
okay.
feel it and they kind of embody that. And so I think it's so
Yeah.
funny how it keeps popping back in. Like it's never going to die. But you know
Yeah,
what?
it's
It's
never gonna
funny
die.
because there's, and there's like definitive aesthetics. Like when you think of like 60s aesthetic, you think of like
Yes.
that hippie and that stuff. But,
Or
and then
like
like
Pierre Cardin
50s.
and like
Yeah.
amazing, really refined. Yeah, I think of 60s sort of as shapes and bold black, white, red,
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Not
But
just
it's
hippie stuff, but yeah,
Oh, for
bold.
sure, for sure. But I see more 80s aesthetic kind of like forcing its way back through than I really see anything else. And it's curious to me why it has such a hold over us. Like why does it excite us in this way, you think, that it just keeps pushing through like nothing else does?
I don't know. I feel like they were the people that lived and got to be in their 20s and 30s in the 80s really got to experience something new. And I think there are big advances in technology that allow that all the time. I think of that with like trains and, planes, and they haven't changed since they were invented much. So wouldn't it have been a cool to have lived through the first, I don't know, trolleys and trains in urban life. And I think of that with the 80s too. You can only reinvent so many things. Um, and they got to be there and do it and be as weird as they wanted. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited by fashion now, and I think people are doing really interesting things. Um, and same with furniture. I'm a little, yeah. Well, the reason I got into 80s furniture is because I got so sick of mid-century furniture, which I will always love. It's too classic, though. I want to be a little annoying. I want to push push the aesthetic a little bit. So mid-century was just too tasteful for me. And I think with clothes and furniture too, there was a few years ago there was all the like curvy, colorful furniture that I think even like Target kind of has now.
Hmm.
Um and I think it's fun. I think it's cute that it's not too restrained.
So something you mentioned earlier kind of takes something that I sort of picked up in my head somewhere, is that it seems like a lot of, because I was pouring, because I found this which really fascinating. It was this Imager account where they took like this 80s mall guide that somebody had put together like back in the 80s, and they like digitized it and put it all on there. So just scrolling through all those pictures kind of really fascinated me. And so I found myself doing the same thing with like a lot of your spaces that you've created. But I've noticed in a lot of your spaces, it seems to be like bespoke stuff, like like things people made, or maybe you designed the aesthetic to kind of follow. And it seemed like you weren't really trying to go out of your way to find like designer pieces, like actual, like really high end. It seems like you wanted more of kind of like the kind of handmade or your version of it. And I was just curious, like, why is that? Weren't you wanting to grab all these crazy designer
that's
pieces?
Because I'm cheap and I like to find stuff and I can't afford the designer stuff. And yeah, definitely finding stuff at thrift stores. And just like mid-century furniture, there were so many 80s knockoffs. I mean, that used to there's so much laminate around because it's kind of not great furniture. Laminate chips. It's really heavy. And now I think all those pieces have been snapped up. So, and as you probably have heard many people complaining, there's no good thrifting anymore. There's all kinds of accounts that are like, oh, guess how much this is at Goodwill. And it's just a dumb like glass bowl and it's $120.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, it's infuriating. It's infuriating. So, not that thrifting's over, but it's definitely we've hit a rough spot because also there's nothing made well anymore. And all that Target furniture that could be kind of cute for a few years is going in the alley. It's going to be thrown away because you can't unscrew it. You can't put it together more than once and all the IKEA stuff. I mean, I will always love IKEA though. And so many good IKEA collabs over the years too. They have nailed some really 80s stuff, and they're bringing back some of the 80s stuff. I think like last year they had, you can't hate IKEA. You just can't.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I actually enjoy design, and so like going through IKEA, I always find myself saying, "That's really clever." Like they've come up with some interesting mechanism or some use of some space that just blows me away every time.
Me too.
I love it.
Yeah, amazing.
And it makes me feel inspired in a way that I'm not in any other space. Like I start trying to think of what are out of the box ways I can combine these things together, like some unorthodox method to come.
Yeah.
How do I put this and this together? And I just don't find myself like being in that space anywhere else other than that store, which sounds like it makes me feel like an old person, but I don't know. Like it fascinates me.
Like you too can do this somewhere else.
Yeah.
Nice to see it already executed.
But something I'm hearing here is you seem like you're kind of a bit of a rebel streak or maybe a contrarian. And so it also like all this kind of feeds into that, like 80s kind of punk, and then I was looking at like your kitchen
why my
where
Madonna comments are going to come back to haunt me.
No, I was thinking about like your kitchen, how like some of the design you did with like electrical tape, like this cool striped pattern.
Was a few apartments ago.
Dude, that feels like so very punk to me, like doing that kind of stuff.
I'm like that with paint too. I think people they should be scared of putting electrical tape on everything because it does not come off.
Oh, and it's
there's like all kinds of accounts that are like, oh, it's renter friendly. It is not. That is going to be so hard to get off. That stuff really sticks and gets gooped up. But paint, 99% of the time, unless you're painting wood, it's reversible. Even if you're painting wood, you can. So, I mean, I don't advocate painting wood, but unless, well, whatever. There are points when you can paint wood. But one of my favorite thing to say about the movie Rosemary's Baby is in the opening scene, they move to like the Upper East Side or something, and they have this beautiful dark wood apartment, and they're painting it all white. That is like one of the opening scenes that I feel like that's like actually the scariest thing about the whole movie. Like, you're rooting this like 1910s amazing woodwork, which, and of course we all know, I don't know what Texas is like with like how people ruin historical things. I think it's the same everywhere. We can't just let something be. Anyway.
Maybe they're preserving it for future generations to restore it back to its former glory.
But I do love paint, and I think people can be a little more cavalier with paint than they think. And I've had to repaint things too.
My wife embodies that as well, because she she has really taught me, because I used to think that like my house is this fragile thing that I need to be very careful with. She's like, dude, it's our house. It's
Yeah.
like, we live here. It's just paint. It's just whatever, like this kind of thing. It's just whatever it is. She's like,
Yeah.
we can always fix it. We can always do whatever. So I like, yeah, making the space your space, and nothing's permanent, right? Like if I do the paint,
Yep.
a month later I decide it's not for me, I can always just repaint it. It's not that big a deal.
It's just, a lot of time and money, but
I
and
feel like
some
it's
people
more effort
really
than
hate
time. Yeah, it's more effort than money. So it's like, as long
yeah,
as you're
it's
good with that.
a lot of effort. But I enjoy painting, so I don't know if your wife also enjoys painting.
She does, in a bizarre way. Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. You could really see what it's a big change.
You know what? You can. You know what? I've also found that like it was in a way that I never expected or understood when I was younger, but the aesthetics of a space affect, one is my mood, but also I think my creativity in that space. Like it affects how creative and I don't understand it. I genuinely don't, but it feels like there's a correlation there for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I feel that way so strongly. I mean, and I'm an urban planner. I went to school for it. I don't have a master's in planning because I've been working the same job for 20 years at the city of Chicago doing parks and open space. But I'm around a lot of urban designers and urban planners, and my day is ruined if I'm walking through parking lots all day instead of walking to transit. And just that type of every time I go out to the burbs and come back, I'm just like so relieved to see big buildings and brick, and it absolutely affects my mood. But I also like the vernacular of, I went to Miami Beach for the first time recently. What a perfect 80s deco city, that
Feels very Miami
was
Vice
amazing.
still, doesn't it?
What'd you say?
It feels very Miami's Vice still.
Absolutely. We went on a Miami Vice tour of all the place. And then, then you get worried about them undoing, like squandering their history. There's a whole Art Deco that they're, organization, and they're very aware of preserving the Art Deco lobbies and hotels and restaurants. But then there needs to also be people preserving the 80s stuff, because like neon can be expensive to maintain. So people have taken down a lot of the neon over the years because it changed hands and all this stuff, and people want to update. And it's just such a shame, much like the Thompson Center. If you just leave something for a little longer, it'll be back in style. Just don't ruin it. I know people hate it. It's divisive. It's gaudy or whatever, but I think that's why some of the best places, the best preserved places, are ones that don't have a lot of disposable income. And Chicago, there's different neighborhoods that sort of are preserved by default. And I just want to shout out Milwaukee, just such an amazing place that is kind of it's like stuck in time, and mostly 60s, 70s, with just amazing dive bars and weird spaces that people that are well loved and well used, and there's no reason to undo it and make it hip and cool. They're just like, no, this works. Why would we're going to spend money on the food and the drinks, not doing like farmhouse decor and, like getting rid of all the authentic things. I mean, there's a little bit of that, but that like keeps me up at night.
I mean, you were literally in a documentary about keeping the Thompson Center alive, which you just mentioned, which is
gone.
One of those iconic places that were built kind of 80s style. I think Stuart Hicks in that piece posited that like there's this 40-year arc of a design where after about 40 years, everybody says, all right, let's get rid of this. Let's change this thing. And so it's curious
absolutely
why
needs work at 40 years.
Oh, I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
It's like a turning point too. Like, do we demolish it and start over because it is so far gone and nobody took care of it and nobody cares about it? Yeah. That's tough.
You know what's funny is I could see an aesthetic from any time period I would say prior to 2000, and I can really appreciate it. And there's not a lot of things that make me feel like I just don't have big feelings for the most part. But there's something about design. I genuinely, I'm an odd person. But there's something about design and being in a space that can make me feel a certain way. And unlike anything, even more so than music or fashion, any of those things, something about a space from a previous time, I don't know, it kind of makes me feel connected to the people that existed then in a way I fully don't understand or fathom. And so you're talking about how much those spaces are important to you. And I very much resonate with that.
Yeah, I think even someone who would say they don't care about architecture, don't feel big feelings about interior design. There's bad things that they would obviously agree doesn't make them feel good. I mean, you could go to the extreme opposite, right? Or like waiting at the DMV or like some bad, low ceiling, dimly lit, dirty stuff like, I don't know. I think I've always been an aesthetic, like sensitive to aesthetics, but in high school feeling like, look, they designed our school and it looks like a jail, when you're a kid and you like,
yeah.
you're like, look, they're keeping us in here. You like just as a younger person thinking you've like discovered something that you're like in high school / jail. The same architect did a jail down the street or something. I think you would have to really not feel anything to not realize that your surroundings really affect you. But everyone's different, and I think I'm just oversensitive to aesthetics.
Yeah, yeah. Or I think most people are just completely unaware of how much it can change their thought process and moods. Like I've heard somebody say before, if you're stuck in a rut, like here, I work from home. This is my home office. So if you're stuck in a rut, physically move yourself to a different space, and it's actually going to change the way you feel and you're operating.
Yeah.
I think that's so fascinating. And it's not that complex a thing. Like you said, a coat of paint can literally change the way you feel in a space. So why wouldn't you take that little bit of extra effort to try?
Exactly. Yeah. Even little things like, making your bed, opening the shades. I'm in the bedroom right now, but yeah, keeping clutter at bay, I think, is a way to not go crazy. And a lot of people during COVID who I had never been in my own space that long. I'm definitely an outside person. I like my home space, but I'm out and about. And I was feeling a little claustrophobic, stuck inside and just stuck in other people's places. And seeing if it I know people that don't think clutter affects them. And then like, I don't know. I think it really does. I don't think there's any. Yeah, I do have an acquaintance who cleans people's closets. She does let me help you minimize, your life. And I think I might be good at that too. Oh yeah, clean everything and then still take a few more things away. Even though I like organized clutter and I like objects, but I think I think it goes a really long way for people. I don't know, just rambling now, but
no, I dig it.
Even if people don't think it's important.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference for me. Like you could, I don't know if you could tell, but my room is lined with big bread racks like that. And I used to be very efficient on my design, but I'm finding myself keeping the efficiency, but moving more towards aesthetics, because it actually does influence my mood. Like you could see, I'm so proud of this brand new Pizza Hut.
I like your pizza lamp. Yes.
Yeah. It's from like an old decommissioned pizza. They used to have the big stores. I don't know. There's such a weird design on the building, like almost like a pagoda or whatever. But,
yes.
Yeah, but it definitely, I like looking at it, like walking in and seeing it, and like when I'm on a Zoom meeting, I see it in the background. Like, I don't know, it just makes me feel
And the red
pretty
is
rad.
really red and yellow are really good light colors. They're soft and warm. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Have you
Yeah.
seen those Instagram accounts or this might even be Tumblr, like Pizza Huts being reused? I can't
No,
remember. Yeah.
I have
There's like
seen
a
one.
whole genre of people that are like photographing Pizza Huts and what they are now.
I saw one that
Funny.
did stick out to me that was painted completely blue and it was a Domino's inside. I was like,
I've never
man.
thought to a Domino's.
uh,
That's rare.
it's pretty sweet. From the rubble of your enemy,
Yes,
you
yes.
rise. It cracks me up. But yeah, I have fond memories of like 80s, like after the soccer season was over, the whole team would go to the
Yep.
the pizza place and we'd play arcade games and stuff. And I still love going to arcades. Like I still love that aesthetic too. I love the
Yes.
sounds.
Oh, so cool. I
Yeah,
know.
I dig
Yeah,
it.
I'm glad that is preserving history and all that trend of people opening up arcade bars, and a lot of the pinball Midway Games is in Chicago, so we still have a lot of people that repair those. Like I think more than the rest of the country, it's like easier to have pinball stuff here because we still have the infrastructure. Never quite went away.
That's dope. So, have you influenced some of your normie friends into adopting some more of the 80s? Because it's funny, like a couple of ours that are like friends of ours, we recently went to Austin. So if you live in Texas and you want to do something cool, you're pretty much going to go to Austin.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you've been there, it's got a whole vibe. Like it's
it's
unlike
fun.
anything else in Texas. Yeah, and
And
so
that's where you are.
no, I'm in the boring part about
Where are you?
I'm in this place called College Station, which is about an hour and 40 minutes from anywhere cool in Austin.
Okay, but
But
it's closest to Austin.
yeah, maybe a little closer to Houston. We're about
Okay.
3 hours from Dallas. Dude, this is a big state. This is a
I've
big.
only been to Austin. I've never been anywhere else in Texas, and I have really good friends in Houston and Dallas, and I really want to go, especially for all the 80s aesthetics and Dallas. The most 80s show. I mean, I have to go there. I need to get over there. Maybe when it's negative degrees in Chicago this winter, I
Oh
will
well,
try to get out there.
we got a lot of snowbirds. To be
I
perfectly
bet.
honest,
Yeah.
yeah, I have some
Yeah.
friends
And
that
the
like
Houston
yeah.
art scene and the Cy Twombly thing and all the stuff in Houston. I really need to get. Is it Cy Twombly? Did I make that up? Anyway, I can't remember.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
find
know. I don't
myself
know Houston that well.
like going to Austin so much more frequently because there's just so much. I don't know. The arts are just so much more interesting there. So we did like David Sedaris came through. He's like a comedian
Love
and
David
like
Sedaris.
writer. Yeah, okay, yeah, you're down. So we went and watched him.
We're of a certain age. I feel like that. I think maybe a little younger than
Yeah.
us. People don't know David Sedaris
Well,
anymore.
and like I think a couple of weeks or a few weeks from now, we're going down there because they're doing. They have a bunch of actors who are doing a live reading of a couple of Golden Girls episodes.
Oh,
So
adorable!
yeah, it's just like Austin has all the best stuff. Like
That's really
it's always
fun.
moved down there. But we took some friends of ours down there and like farted around, did some stuff, took them to some of our favorite places to eat, and then went to an arcade. And then they just went to Austin for an anniversary, and they literally went back to the same restaurant and went to the same arcade. I was just thinking how like they were essentially 80s kids too, and I think you can forget what it's like, and then you get a little taste of it and you're like, oh man, like I remember what it was like when we were kind of like free and having fun. And I'm just curious, like have you infected any of your friends in such a way?
Good question. I have so many different types of friends. Um,
I have a feeling you have much
yeah.
more creative friends than I do though.
I also have a lot of just niche music people in my life, and the whole since the mid 2000s, I've been peripherally a part of the whole Northern Soul scene, and that is like peak costume lifestyle. You got your Vespa, you've got 100 mirrors, you only listen to 45s, and I don't know. I think those guys are like kind of an inspiration too, like really committed to a lifestyle, fashion wise and all that. And there's multiple events for a while there in the early 2000s. There were multiple events a week, I swear. And like roving different Northern Soul groups that were infighting, and then there'd be the mods versus the rockers events at like Delilah's, just to like add, just to unite the mods a little more, just to be, remember, we hate the rockers. Gotta have a common enemy. But that Chicago's so huge, and there's a scene for everybody. There's so many fun, but I always thought of them as like a little extreme costumey, and not, I've always wanted to be a little more eclectic and not pigeonholed into the 80s, but if I was going to be pigeonholed in any decade, that'd be fine.
Acceptable.
But especially with furniture, a lot of the 80s stuff that got really big, especially in Memphis and like Super Studio, they were doing that in the mid 70s, and it didn't really hit magazines and publications and stuff until the 80s. And I think that's the same with a lot of the music that I like, the early 80s stuff. They were starting that, like they were starting that in the 70s, and so I think I'd want to go a little earlier, but I also love the 90s.
yeah because it kind of it sort of, they sort of bleed into each other. It's not like a hard fast line, so I think
never a hard fast line. Absolutely.
And you've mentioned the Memphis Design Group a couple times so far, and believe it or not, I'm scheduled to talk to Peter Shire.
No way. Oh, he's great.
In a couple of weeks.
Yes, I follow him on Instagram. I spoke with his wife, I think, once, because I found a image of a chair he designed and tagged him, and I think she must run his professional Instagram, and she was like, "Where did you find this? We've been looking for this image," and I was like, "I think I found it on Pinterest. I don't even know where." And I tried to go back, and I'm Google image reverse searching and all this stuff, and I was like, I have no idea where I found this. And she was like, cool, we were wondering. Like, she was very sweet, and I know he's seems so young compared to, I think he was one of the younger ones of that group. He does pottery and has people into his place in California. He's super accessible and like
I mean, he's talking to me.
I would love to meet him.
It's pretty
I
wild.
can't wait to watch listen to the podcast.
And it's interesting. Like I would have talked to him earlier, but he had to go to Milan for a show. I was like, dude, at his age, he is still just rocking it. I think he
doesn't seem that old to me, but yeah. Is he like 75?
I think he's 70? Late 70s.
Okay,
somewhere around in there. Yeah.
Because I think like Satsis and all, like Soden, those guys were probably a decade older than him.
Yeah. But I was just thinking about like what really got me fascinated with that design group and wanted to talk to somebody who was kind of inside the inner circle was the idea that anytime, I would say pretty much anybody, you ask them like to think of 80s design, it's going to be inspired probably by the Memphis group.
Yeah.
And so what is it like being one of 10 people that essentially are the design aesthetic of an entire decade? That's got to be like wild. Like,
cool. I know.
From the inside, I don't know. It's probably super strange. I'm just curious.
Well, they got a lot of pushback at the time, I think. And people thought they were very serious, and they thought they were just being facetious and troublemakers. And I think they were.
Well, that feels like the 80s, right?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, they were like, no, we're going to make impractical, not comfortable pieces of art in colors that everyone doesn't think goes together and that hates. And I love their philosophy.
Yeah, I dig it. All right, Meg, you gave me a decent chunk of your time. I was so generous of you to do it, and I'm trying to be very mindful. I'm watching the clock down here.
Great, thank you. Yes, sorry,
No worries. Like I said, I love.
Hope I didn't embarrass myself too much.
No, absolutely not. This was a pleasure. And so right here,
I could benefit from some editing, but that is not how podcasts work.
That's not how it works, brother. This ain't how this works. This ain't how this goes down. Right here at the end, I like to ask people, especially the nice ones like you, the kind guests, giving of your time. Is there anything you'd like to promote? Do you have anything coming up? How would you want people to interact with you? Like point them towards your stuff. What's that look like?
Good question. Probably Hammy Whammy in Chicago as my location. It's on Instagram at Hammy Whammy Official. And then 80s Deco is sort of been my fun little, started as a Tumblr. I'm 99% just a curator, finding fun images through all different channels. And then every now and then I'll post something that I've actually created. But I do think of myself as more of a curator than a designer. Yeah. So
That's cool.
Echo
That's
and
cool.
Hammy
So
Whammy. Thank you.
if somebody looks at your work and they said, you've absolutely got to entirely design my new mansion, are you going to say no to them or what?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an interior designer. And in like fourth grade, I had a subscription to House Beautiful, and was definitely still into French country back then. But I would love to try to design someone's house. I've done little design projects like a room of a friend's or helping with something. But I would probably need to pull in some help. I do not know if I would be capable of designing an entire
dude, you've put together some
space, but it
amazing
would be
spaces.
so fun.
I've seen lots of evidence to the contrary that you could definitely put together some amazing spaces. All right. I'll tell you what, Meg, thank you again so much. I'm going to hit
Nice to
stop
meet
on
you.
these recordings really quick.